welcoming our moderator for this session, Mr. Kapil Bhatia, CEO of Brand Store India Private Limited. Can we have a huge round of applause for Mr. Kapil Bhatia? A Mumbai-born chartered accountant and commerce graduate, joined his family's retail business in 2000. Spotting a gap in the corporate wear market, he began offering uniforms and workwear in 2006. Since 2007, his venture has served over 200 corporates and MNCs across India. We now invite our esteemed panelists to the stage, Ms. Gauri, founder of Sirohi. Can we have a huge round of applause for Ms. Gauri? A little louder. Thank you. Shaped by a gender-neutral upbringing and elite education from Mumbai and the University of Warwick, a pivotal stint with a microfinance NGO in Peru inspired by her shift from corporate banking to grassroots development. In 2019, she launched Sirohi, a sustainable gifting and home decor brand empowering over 1,500 women artisans across India. Next, I want to invite Mr. Aditya Kumar, co-founder of the India Art Investment Company Private Limited, Haath Ka Bana. A former HSBC professional, Mr. Aditya Kumar brings financial acumen and strategic clarity to uplift rural artisans. Their handcrafted works have reached global icons, including Dalai Lama, PM Narendra Modi, President Ram Nath Kovind, Satya Nadella, and Sundar Pichai. Aditya also leads MetaChamp Associates. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Ankush Guglani, Director and Founder of Auric Lifestyle. Can we have a huge round of applause? Ankush began his journey in the electronics industry when the landscape was still evolving. Over time, he observed that global brands struggled in India, not due to product gaps, but because of fragmented ecosystem. This led to the creation of Auric Lifestyle, a full-stack platform helping electronics brands scale with speed. Let's start with our panel discussion.
So, hello everyone. I think as I was entering and asked everyone what I needed to, who are all my co-panelists, they said, they're here, but you are the moderator. So I just got to know a minute back that I'm the moderator for this panel. So instead of, I was all prepared to answer questions, I'll have to rather ask. So I rather start this entire thing. We won't have a question answer. No, we won't have a question answer session. We'll just have a conversation. No, I'm not. I'm very comfortable answering. We all are from the sustainable side of the business. We are here for a trade show because all of us want to explore the B2B side. I will start with something that is probably common to all of us. What is the biggest challenge you face in explaining a product amongst this huge ocean in terms of sustainability? Aapka product there's a clear product differentiation on sustainability, right? But there are a lot of other products available over here. So why should people choose y'all over the others? So if you can start with Gauri. Yeah.
Hi. Okay, so I think firstly we see this panel and there's one woman sitting here. There's already a differentiator, I think. But I think when it comes to what we do at Sirohi is a sustainable home and gifting brand for some of the most beautiful handmade products. Of course, if you go around here, there's 70% of brands that are doing sustainable gifts because that's the demand of corporates, of buyers today. But what we do very differently at Sirohi is the fact that we focus a lot on not just making beautiful products, but creating stories. And for us, Sirohi is a brand where each product has a story to tell. That's what we say. So I think for us, it's about the fact that we check a lot of boxes around the fact that it's handmade, it's made by women artisans, it's made from natural materials, and a lot of like textile, plastic waste. At the same time, they're beautiful and super design first presents. So you should definitely check us out because we're right behind this booth here. And I think that's what truly differentiates us. The fact that we try to combine all elements. We're not just one aspect, but a lot of different elements in one.
Thanks, Gauri. Ankush.
Thank you and congrats for being the moderator today. Thanks Gift Expo for this opportunity and thanks for the audience that you have come over here to bear us for next 1 hour. As far as gifting is concerned, as all of us know that gifting goes very deep into our roots. We have heard stories since childhood that gifting is very much part of our culture. And over the last 2 to 3 decades, what I have observed is that we have gone through different phases of gifting. Whatever was available close to our home, whatever is been offered by the sales team, we have sold that or accepted that and gifted to the near and dear ones. And now I think globally, everybody is talking about sustainable planet. That is one thing that everybody is talking about. So I would say this is a subset of it. That within the corporate segment, since we gift a lot, so a lot of reports says that personal gifting and corporate gifting in 2010 it was 35,000 CR, and 2020 it was close to 1.75 CR, and 2030 it will be close to 7.5 LCR. So that is a huge number that we are talking about. So in case we go with the conventional route of making it attractive at the cost of nature, then it will be tough for us to sustain. So I think sustainability is one is need of the hour. Second, I think it will be a good key differentiator, as she mentioned. And what it requires, as far as I'm concerned, is a lot of awareness through platforms like Instagram and a promotion by a government for sure in the form of subsidies. Because cost of doing sustainable packaging and gifting is on a higher side. Yeah, it will take some time, but it'll get sustained for sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Aditya, can we have you?
Hello. Yeah. I am Aditya and I am from Hath Ka Bana. Now, Hath Ka Bana will suggest you it is something that is created by artisan's hand. Okay, and then your question was, is it difficult to explain a sustainable gifting or your sustainability part? So, in one line, I can say that it is easy. That's why we exist. That's why Shiroi also exists, because these are differentiating products only. It is difficult because we have 70% stalls here, which is mostly imported and regular items. So ours kind of thing, it requires explanation, and sustainability is also something we also think in terms of, not only in terms of sustainability of the environment, but in terms of whole ecosystem. I mean, the people who produce, the artisans, lot of people are there, lot of elements are there, which needs to have a sustainable outlook, and that should sustain. And that's what make Hath Ka Bana a differentiator for us, because whenever we go to somebody to propose to some of the clients, they are looking for something which is sustainable, which has a story. So most of the products, and I'm very happy to see many stalls now compared to yesteryears, they are having those concepts built in their products that we have seen in many stalls.
Yeah, completely agree. So, similar story that I had, that we started Unirec, where we make garments from these plastic bottles. We started about 4 years back. We exhibited about 3 years back, first time over here. I think we were one amongst, probably out of the 600, we were amongst hardly 10 stalls which were selling sustainable stories at that time. it's so heartening to see now. Today we are discussing this at 30%. That's about 180 stalls. So there are 600 stalls. So I'm assuming that about 150, 180 stalls would be selling their sustainability stories today. So that is how far India, or rather the corporate world, has come. I wouldn't say India has come that far, but at least the corporate world has come that far in narrating or helping us narrate their sustainable stories through their gifting. So that is one part. Now moving to the other part where I had these challenges. I would ask all of you all to share what were your challenges in scaling. In my case, for example, nobody wanted to make this fabric. Even the fabric manufacturers, they said, "ये क्या है? Plastic से कैसे बनेगा?" So we had to actually tell them how it can be done. So I would like all of you all to share what were your challenges in these last 2-3 years to explain to people on what you all are doing, on how you all need to scale.
Okay, I can go first. So I think we're just getting started. Although Sirohi is a 4-year-old brand, and we're learning and coming. We have new challenges every day. But I think the biggest challenge for us is unfortunately, we're competing with China. For every gifting brand that exists today, and when it comes to buyers, while everybody wants a sustainable handmade product, they want it tomorrow. They want large quantities. They want it in a price of a factory-made product. But they want the story and they want all the checkboxes, right? And I think that's the biggest challenge for every sustainable handmade brand that's genuinely a brand that is working with artisans. So if I had to really summarize in 3 points, one is that a challenge is a handmade product is made by people. It requires hands. And it takes a lot of time. So it is impossible to compete with factory-made products that buyers typically want. They don't want it, but, it's hard to compete with that. Of course, China, Sirohi makes some of the most beautiful handmade baskets and boxes. And believe you me, every mithai, gifting, reseller brand wants to buy our products. But the moment they're like, oh, ye to China mein mil jayega 50 rupees ka, 100 rupees ka, lekin hame handmade chahiye. So, there's a big, it's a very oxymoron kind of a statement that is always stated. So it's conflicting. And I think for us, the biggest challenge to scaling really is that we have to compete with China or a factory-made product while still having the story. But I'd love to hear everyone else's views here as well.
So we have a company called Eco Marketing, wherein we work with more than 100 brands in India. And what we do is we solve the problem in terms of their requirements for electronic products and beyond electronics also. So one of the biggest challenge that we need to cater is a mix of price. We need to match the price which they are asking for. At the same point of time, the same product query goes in the market. So multiple vendors come into picture. At times, there's something called green washing, wherein a lot of folks says that it is green, but it need not be green. So we have to compete in terms of pricing. Second is many organizations want a scale, a delivery, supply chain within a very tight timelines. So that becomes another challenge because 60% of the business happens during Diwali time. And that point of time, the supply chain gets choked. So for us, for the corporate business, this is the right time for us to engage the companies, log the orders, do the sourcing. So for us, biggest challenge I would say is one, matching the price of the buyer. Second is the supply chain.
Very good question, in fact. And what is pointed out by both of you also, is very pertinent to the industry that we work. See, tight timelines of competing with Chinese product. With all this, I want to believe that it is scalable. I want to have the conviction that it is scalable, but it doesn't show up in every day because of how our bulk buyers expect us to do. Because this will go in its own way. It will go in the way they are. So for sustainability, the bigger question is the education, the level of education that, or instead of education, I will use the word awareness. These handmade products will take time because it is created by hand, and there are imperfection in beauty. That is the key thing in our kind of proposition that we do. However, I sometimes if you get an order of say 40,000 quantity and deliver it in 20 days, that's something new that you have created. So unless you have a stock or ready to be shipped, it will be difficult. But it's easy if you have to do it in bags, if you have to do it in anything which is plastic, which is not what we do. So sustainability has many angles to it. Pricing is one where you need to convince, you need to give the story so that you get the value. And when all of you were talking, I was feeling like they're from the same thing what we do. So I was not feeling in different company. I was in the same company.
Yeah, we face these same challenges every day, which is why. Another thing that I've learned over the years in handmade products, a lot of people come up and say that, अरे सर ये आपके प्रोडक्ट में तो डिफेक्ट है. तो व्हाट वी टेल देम है, सर डिफेक्ट नहीं, वो इफेक्ट है, वो हाथ से बना है. सो हाथ का बना है. सो प्लीज उसको डिफेक्ट मत बोलिए. It is that natural beauty that comes through. Secondly, I realized and I would like your opinions on this. When I first started marketing, I had a B2B background, so I went to these companies and spoke about it. Very soon I changed direction. In the same company, instead of meeting the procurement teams, I started meeting the marketing teams. And then very soon, in the last 1 or 2 years, ESG teams have sprung up in all large corporations, which is actually a blessing for us. I would like to know your opinions because the first question that I was asked, I was making t-shirts. The first question I was asked from a procurement team, ये कितने का है? They were not interested whether it's sustainable or no. They're not concerned whether it's sustainable or no. पहले बताओ is this equal to the product that we are buying currently without even comparing anything else. I would like to understand who is your target audience in corporates. It'll help them educate over here, a lot of people who are listening, and also pitch our products in a much better way.
So when it comes to the target audience, I'm not going to reveal our secret. I think it's when you have a lot of, as a sustainable brand, and at Sirohi we market and talk about our products a lot. We talk about the story a lot. And now every day is on everybody is on social media, on Instagram. So I think the first few years for us was just analyzing the inbound requests. Who is really interested in our products before us going out to pitch? Because I think it's a sea. It's an ocean out there, right? There's so many people who are interested in handmade products, but there's just a fraction of people who genuinely care. So when we started with the intention of, making products that are handmade, beautiful, all of that. But we realized that more and more people, like you rightly said, pricing is such a massive issue. And a lot of times handmade products are also categorized, in the, अच्छा ये तो NGO है, NGO के products इतने सस्ते होने चाहिए, why are they so expensive, ये 200 रुपए का है, but they don't realize that it takes more time. So over time, we just realized that, hey, there's like these many people when it comes to corporates or buyers who will be interested in a handmade product or sustainable product, right? And obviously it's increased over time, but there will be 100% of people who will be interested in a product that's truly beautiful, designed first. They see functionality, they see usage for the product, for their employees, for their clients. And that's when I think people are actually willing to pay for it. Because it's very easy to say, pricing hai, but as startups, as founders, you have to navigate through the challenges. You have to sort of move forward, right? So for us, we realized that corporates that genuinely cared were typically in the banking sector, because people who have HNI clients are the ones who care. They want to make a difference, right? So definitely like banking. Second is a lot of corporates that are listed who are IPO'd. They definitely have an ESG team. Those are the people you should target. More and more brands that are essentially now that are very sustainable in the sense that they have sustainable practices in the impact reports. Those people who are listed or part of a lot of government impact initiatives are funding government initiatives. Those will be interested in products like ours. So I think for us, we saw a lot of our inbound requests, analyzed it, and then started targeting those categories and industries. And it's worked pretty well for us at Sirohi so far.
Yeah, Ankush. Just to add to what you're saying, at least you were given that much respect of being called an NGO. I'll tell you what we were told. आपको तो ये free में मिलता है, तो आप क्यों इतना महंगा बना रहे हो?
Well, lot of great insights. So what I second to your thought as well, wherein you said that you shifted from procurement to the marketing team. So see, considering the sustainable handmade products, since less in quantity, so in corporates, why not list down the list of corporates and target only the top management? Because charity begins at home. So let them have the flavor of this idea, this thought, and pitch only maybe 10 quantity in a corporate and let them use it at a subsidized price. Tell them for the management it is at a subsidized price, use it. But tomorrow, if you want to place an order or use this is a story that you want to pitch in the market. So storytelling, making them believe in the story, I think will be the first step, because it's a mental barrier they have to overcome, which has been sitting in there over the decades. So yeah, it will come, but it will be done, but it'll take maybe next 1 decade to take a larger pie in the industry for sure.
The marketing teams comparatively are more responsive, at least. Yeah, they don't bother about the price. The price comes much later for them. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about that. We work with one client, Reserve Bank, and they have shredded currencies. We make products out of that. Now, again, that they say that we give you free. So it should be given. Why are you charging anything? You just charge your labor. So that's not. I want to tell you about something that mango juice that we take, 10 rupees, 20 rupees ka milta hai. That has a sipping pipe in it. It is paper made. That is the only story. It is packed in plastic. Now it is called eco-friendly. We are doing something for nature. So most of the products, if you find time, go through it, and most of the products that you will see here will have some part which is sustainable. I see bamboo bottle, but it has plastic, it has steel in it, all sorts of metal in it. Now it is called sustainable. To sell a sustainable story is a task which we all are doing right now in our own thing that we do. So when we go to the corporate and when we talk to them, they are definitely interested in the story, but not in the pricing. Because pricing has to be same. This is our budget. You heard that? This is our budget. So then you need to, again, we come back to that story, you need to compete with them. But eventually, we are kind of happy that corporates are accepting it. This session is about that. So I am positive. I have good hopes that many organizations are accepting it. They are taking it. They are taking it. You said about banking clients. So different types of people, the decision makers are there who have different opinions. Some want very subtle. Some say it should look very gorgeous. And to make your sustainable product gorgeous is a tough task. So, but still packaging and all that can help. And you can, that's where that comes up. The story that you have, the story that each product carries, that brings out the beauty in the product and the sustainability. And people need to accept that. And we, perhaps our tasks are cut out. We need to work hard on that and move on.
Yeah. So moving on, Ankush said that we will subsidize these products for top management to a certain extent, right? Initially, talking about subsidies, right? Let's talk about the government. Not the right place, not the right city, probably to talk about, but I will still. Yeah, we are a very fair audience over here. So, do you think so? The government is promoting sustainability. They say yes, you need to buy sustainable, you need to wear sustainable, you need to do sustainable gifting. Are they doing enough for the supply chain for it to really become sustainable and competitive? Therefore, because everything that comes down is whether we are competitive enough, right? Whether we are scaling enough, and all those challenges which we commonly face. Is the government doing enough in your industries? For example, in my case, a lot of people ask me, "You do you get carbon credit?" I said I get nothing from the government. I just do this because I love doing this. So I would like to understand, because you all are from the sustainable space but different industries. So is the government doing anything in that supply chain which is helping your artisans or helping the entire supply chain to become more economical in some way?
So I would say yes. I think there are lots of different schemes, lots of different initiatives by the government, and I can name a few that are truly helpful, which we've applied for, which we've received. One of them is this Sphoorti grant by the Ministry of Textiles, through which we set up a factory. And it gave us access to working capital. So that's more from an artisan livelihoods perspective. And that's how we have a beautiful factory in Muzaffarnagar because of that grant. Also, I think there are lots of different initiatives like Startup India. There's like the national startup, the national challenge for entrepreneurs. I do think there are lots of initiatives. There's an entire quota of funding that has been set aside for startups, entrepreneurs. Maybe not just in the sustainability or climate tech areas, but I think corporates are generally setting up a lot of incubators. There are a lot of other initiatives which are state-led initiatives which are by the government, not just the central government, even state governments. So I think as entrepreneurs, you just have to keep an eye out and try to harness these opportunities versus trying to say कि और क्या हो रहा है हमारे लिए. I personally feel there is definitely a lot happening, and you have to invest time, you have to invest effort in your research, in finding them. There are very long application forms which you have to invest the time in filling out, giving the right details, because even for the government to invest in initiatives around sustainability, they have to be sure that companies are truly meeting that criteria as well, right? Because if you see here, every brand here says we're a sustainable brand. You see a lot of I would see banners around here where they're saying sustainable products. But if you really ask them कि sustainability का मतलब क्या होता है, I think maybe just 30% will be able to say that. So I think there's enough happening from the government and the private sector as well.
Yeah, adding to her point, see, when we were growing up, we used to buy non-ISI marked products as well. Gradually, government introduced ISI. Then consumer become conscious that, okay, if I buy ISI, at least me and my family will stay safe. Over the years, BIS came in, and BIS expanding, right? So there is a government is putting a stamp. Okay, this product is qualified for this particular criteria. For the discussion which we are having over here, government can possibly do two things. One is come up with a national sort of a symbolic certification, which truly says that it is sustainable, right? So except she gets it and he doesn't get it, that means she has done a good job. That is one. Second is long-term benefit. Any entrepreneur putting entire investments or loan money into the business, so they see, okay, after 5 years, I will see the break-even point, and after that, I'll possibly look at the profits. But over here, every 5 years, because of the change of government, everybody is saying, boss, आज ये है, ठीक है, कल को ये आ गया, boss, खराब हो जाएगा हमारा मामला. So then in that case, I think if the government decides, okay, for next 20 years, the entrepreneurs who are into true sustainable business they are okay to either not to pay taxes or pay taxes in a very relief form, right? Will not put burden on the taxes, and we'll give more and more subsidies to these folks. Third thing is putting a foot down by the government that, for example, by 2040, all the top corporates have to move to sustainable things just to take care of the nature. So if the government puts their foot down, then people will have no choice but to follow that. Just to give example, from many, many years, current government was requesting the companies to move towards SKD, semi-knockdown in electronics. Nobody was following it. Once they said, okay, from next year, you will not be allowed to import a complete built units, or you have to pay 40% taxes. Suddenly, there is a quick rise in the industry to move in that direction. And today, top 3 companies in audio electronics, average, they are producing 75% of the goods in India. They say make in India, but it's assembled in India. At least one step towards that direction. Yeah, so I think it's a bit more steps government can take as per me. Yeah.
So in our case, when we say what government is doing, I think government has its own plans, and it is helping many of us in different ways. Similarly, there are many workshops that government arranges. Like Delhi Heart is there also as an opportunity for those people. So we get to, it's easier for us to get to the artisans. Then Ministry of MSME has many programs that helps. Then Ministry of Finance also has a lot of GST things, which is helping us in the sense that there are products in which the artisans do not have to maintain a lot of accounts, even at a smaller level. So I was in one ministry because we supply to a lot of government offices also. So earlier we were talking about NGO. कि आपको NGO समझते हैं वो? So after 7-8 years in our business, we have put our foot down that no, we'll not accept this NGO, because neither the artisans nor us are in NGO way. Like, we are giving them designs, we are creating certain products, and people are loving it. So where is the question of NGO? They are developing and they are becoming sustainable in their incomes, and it is helping them. So NGO is a different thing. I mean, we are not doing any favor to anybody. We are just doing things we need to do. And it is helping, it's good. It is helping us, it is good. So it is just not about being NGO. And then in many of the government schemes which we do not get, when we don't get it and we don't want to take it. But for example, because we work with government, so we get to say, for example, there's a fair at different places. So we place our artisans there because it is for them and it is helpful for that community itself. So sustainability, if it has to go big in the country, the government will have its role, even if you are saying that you are not doing it because government gives you something. But government has a role and we need to recognize it. And government is playing it, and we need to step up the demands so that that ecosystem is created where sustainable products become a norm and acceptable to many people, to many corporates, to many buyers, and it has to get promoted at different levels.
Yeah, fair. I think government over the years will get aware. I think, like Ankush, what Ankush also said, certification plays a big role in India, fortunately or unfortunately, to prove that you are doing the right thing, to prove that you are on the right path. Till that point of time, you are doing your own bit, you're struggling with convincing people, but certification will definitely play a very, very big role in the future, I feel. So now coming to the future, we are envisioning that the government is going to help us. Where do you think is sustainable gifting going to go from here? It is going to grow. Definitely, we are here in this business, and we've seen the growth. But where do you think? And just to put a point in the future, before we go into the future, let me take you all 30 years back. हम लोग आज सस्टेनेबिलिटी इतना कर रहे हैं, हमारे दादा दादी नाना नानी ये सब सस्टेनेबली थे. ये आई थिंक लास्ट 30 years has changed us. दे ऑलवेज यूज टू नीचे जा रहे हैं तो अपने साथ एक बैग ले जाते थे, कुछ खरीदने जा रहे हैं तो डब्बा ले जाते थे. तो ये सारी चीज़ें तब तो थी. सो वी have forgotten, or rather we need to remind the next gen probably what sustainability truly means in the daily rigmarole that we have. But where do you all envision sustainability not only in gifting but in a way of life going from here?
So, when you just say the word sustainability, it means sustain means long term, right? And the ability to sustain is what I would say. I think all of us, just generally, if you're seeing the world is becoming more minimalism in their in consumerism. People, जो पहले लोग at least middle class, upper middle class would spend in buying houses, land, jewelry. You see people now spend more on experiences, right? They want to travel well, they want to eat well. So I think we just want our lives to be sustainable. And I think that reflects in the way we consume eventually. So I think it is a necessary requirement, and the world will definitely move towards a conscious, sustainable consumption over time. If you see countries internationally, especially Europe, Germany, these countries are so conscious about the way they consume. For them, if you go to Berlin, you will see that everywhere they have second-hand stores for thrift shops for clothes. And this is the case across Europe. So I think it is going to happen. It's inevitable. It's slowly trickling in from, upper middle class to middle class to every sects of, I think strata of the society. And we see that the number of people who generally who are buying from us 2 years ago and who are buying from us now, you're seeing the trend increasing upwards only. And the fact that you see here, you mentioned that you had a stall here 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where maybe 20% stalls were sustainable. If you go around here, everyone wants to be sustainable. So I guess as consumers, we always cater to our, as brands, we always cater to our buyers and people who want from us. And if the demand is asking for sustainability, that's what everyone's doing. So I think in the next few years, you'll probably see 100% of stands here sustainable, where at least they would have one aspect of what they're providing, which is conscious and genuinely important for the planet.
Fair point. Adding to that, where we see sustainable gifting in the future, there are two aspects to it as far as my limited understanding is concerned. One is in the entire gifting sector, if I bifurcate into corporate and non-corporate, the non-corporate has increased from 85% in 2010 to 90% now, and moving towards 95% 2030. So, and everybody knows for their loved and dear ones, for the relatives, for the family, people tend to spend more. So for sustainable physical gifts, B2C would be more attractive vertical versus B2B in short term. Gradually, B2B eventually will rise. But as far as I'm concerned, companies who will parallelly focus and rather focus more on 85% to 90% of the audience, that is B2C consumer. So if they focus over there to build and sustain their company, for sustainable products, they need to sustain their company. So that will enable the sustainability. Parallelly, slowly, gradually enter into the corporate arena, because procurement guy is there. He has his roots deep inside. He gonna stay there till retirement, bro, because of obvious reasons, right? That is one. Second is sustainable gifts should, and I strongly believe, move beyond physical products. So vouchers, experience, holidays, yoga sessions, and there are many ways you can do a sustainable gifts. So tomorrow, if you want to gift to your son or a daughter, probably you give a 5,000 Starbucks ka voucher, right? So your month is sorted. That's your gift, right? So I think non-physical gifts is a very strong thing to enter into the domain of sustainable gifting. Third, which is very important, is all of us at home gets newspapers. Pretty much at the end of the month, we sell it for 3 rupees per kg, right? Or 4 rupees per kg. And we have to request, Bhaiya, please leke jao. It's taking a lot of space. If you can do something around it, for example, take those newspapers, put it a eco-friendly color or paint, and use it as a packaging paper. So we can at least remove the expensive, cheap products of packaging sheets. And don't forget to, in order to make it affordable or cheap, we engage with cheap labor and maybe harm to the nature. So at least we can, because all the millions and millions of products get wrapped. So at least we can contribute in that area as well. Yeah, just 2-3 points that I had came to my mind. Yeah, thanks.
To look at the future, we look at the past also. First car was EV, I think. And we are now again going for EV. So in our thing, for a minute, forget about the business, gifting and all those things. Why non-sustainable things have come? Because for one reason or other reason, we have been trying to replace the natural things. What is available naturally, we have to replace because of many things, many reasons, because of population, requirement and all those things. And whole world is again going back to those, at least in food industry, people are moving towards that natural things, those sustainable things. So in gifting, it has to naturally go back to those sustainable things. And for that, lot of efforts is required from people like us, from people in authority, people in government, because the climate change is real. It is not just a topic which is being flaunted around, because I see in my village, it is happening, it is affecting the daily lives. And, the places where there used to be no rain, they are getting rain. Those areas are not meant to sustain those floods and all. And those areas where flood was norm, you see complete dry places they are becoming. So that is now come back to what we do in every day. Sustainable gifting is the future. And as you rightly said, that from 30% it will become 70%, at least some aspect of it. And the best way is what you said, that it has to go D2C first. That as a customer, as a consumer, we need to start adopting it in our daily lives. And one way or other, we have already started doing it. And it is affecting. That's how it will become 70%, 80%. And eventually, 30 years from now, I hope and pray it becomes 100%. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think on that positive note of we four over here trying to envision a beautiful earth, I would like to thank all of y'all for listening in to us. And a lot of questions are surrounded Gen Z ko kya pata hai, Gen Z ko sustainability ka. But let me tell you, we are in very safe hands, very, very safe hands. Just to tell you, quote a small story from my life. Before I started this, my son, all of 8 years, came up that time, 5 years back, came up to me and told me, Papa, there's going to be more plastic in the oceans by 2050. I nodded like everyone else. I know. he shot back at me saying that, what are all of y'all doing? So that is when I realized Gen Z is in safe hands. They will care more about sustainability than us. So we are hoping for a much, much brighter future, much more sustainable future for ourselves. And I would like to thank all our panelists here for this session. Thank you very much.